Welcome back. Tonight we invite you inside the locked rooms and silence-shrouded corners of the FBI's most secretive safe houses, the kind that don't appear on blueprints. Within this classified territory lie 10 first-hand accounts from witnesses who vanished after being placed under federal protection. They were told they were assets, that they were being hidden for their own safety. But what followed was unnatural silence, mirrored hallucinations, and environments that studied them as carefully as they were supposedly protected. These aren't fugitive stories or urban myth survival tales. These are recovered logs, leaked entries, and post-mission transcripts from secure U.S. facilities designed not just to contain people but possibly to reset them. The homes were sealed, the exits scrambled, and when something began whispering from the walls, only one truth echoed back. Protection was never the plan. These individuals were not hiding from something, they were hiding something. Subscribe the channel if you're ready to uncover the dark side of surveillance, the buried architecture of isolation, and the entities that don't need a key to get in. And if you've ever stayed in a government-funded location that didn't feel quite right, tell us, what did you hear whispering back when the lights went out? I knew something was wrong the second I stepped into the safe house. They told me it was protocol, that after testifying against a major cartel lieutenant, the kind of guy who didn't make threats but delivered them through severed warning signs, hands, tongues, the FBI had no choice but to relocate me, keep me secure. They brushed it off like it was temporary. A few weeks at most, hidden in plain sight, armed guards rotating shifts. They called it a Tier 2 containment placement. I didn't know what that meant exactly, and they didn't explain. But I pretended okay, nodded like I was fine even though I'd barely slept since the bombing at my old apartment. So when Agent Walker escorted me up the quiet hillside road to a nondescript ranch-style house in rural Pennsylvania, I tried to swallow the anxiety clawing at the back of my throat. That's where it started. The outside was bland, no mailbox, no numbers, just beige siding and blackout curtains. Inside it felt off. The air smelled like bleach and old wood. The carpets were too clean, synthetic and flat like they'd just been installed. The windows didn't open. They had those wire lattices embedded in the glass, the kind you see in schools or detention centers. There were cameras in every corner, even the fucking bathroom. I joked about the cameras. Said something like, "Guess I won't be doing any private business." Agent Walker didn't laugh. He handed me a prepaid flip phone and a sheet with one number on it. "This only calls us. No calls in. Stay inside. Do not try to leave. We will contact you when the extraction protocol advances." Extraction protocol? I tried asking him more what Tier 2 actually entailed, why the security felt so much like a goddamn prison, but he was already walking out, locking the door behind him from the outside. That's when I realized there wasn't even a knob on my side, just a blank metal panel. I was alone, and they locked me in. At first I rationalized it. Maybe they were just being extra cautious. I mean, I'd watched a man get shot in the face outside my old job. The same guy I'd seen stuffing duffel bags into the wall behind the deli freezer. The same guy I overheard talking about flipping the operation up to Canada. I'd given them his name, his contacts, the drop locations. So maybe this was them being safe. But after 2 days, no contact, no check-ins, I started to feel like I wasn't being protected. I was being contained. The house itself was bizarre. The lights were always on. I couldn't find a single switch to turn them off. At night they hummed so softly that it almost sounded like whispering if you weren't paying attention. The fridge was stocked with vacuum-sealed, nutrition label-free meals. All of them bland. All of them are the same. But the worst part? The mirrors. There were 3 of them, positioned oddly. One in the hallway facing the bathroom door, one above the kitchen sink, and the last right across from the bed. Not angled right for use. You couldn't really see yourself clearly, just shadows, outlines. And I swear they weren't sit there the first day. I only started noticing them after I began hearing things. Movement behind the walls, like someone walking barefoot just behind the drywall, sometimes scratching, sometimes rapid tapping, like a finger drumming out a message in Morse. I called the number. No one picked up. Day 4, I covered the hall mirror with a blanket. I couldn't stand how fogged over and distorted my own face looked. But the next morning the blanket was folded neatly on the floor and the mirror was clean, spotless, like it had just been polished. I didn't sleep that night. I took one of the kitchen knives and kept it under my pillow even though I had no clue what I thought I'd protect myself against. It wasn't like someone could just walk in, right? Or so I thought. Day 6, the house changed again. I woke up to the TV in the living room blaring white noise. The screen is just static. No remote in sight. I never even turned it on, but the couch was pushed back. The carpet beneath rumpled like someone had been there. And my door, the inside one that leads to the hallway, had new locks on it. From the outside, someone had added an extra bolt. Even though nobody came in, I would have heard something. Should have. I started banging on the walls, screaming, begging for contact. I shouted into the cameras, flipped off the lenses, demanded to speak to someone, anyone. Nothing. No response. Whatever this place was, I wasn't being watched for safety. I was studying. That's when I did something stupid. I tried breaking the bathroom mirror, smashed it with a can of peaches until the glass cracked. Behind it, no insulation, just a black void, maybe 6 inches deep, and what looked like an eye. Round, artificial, watching. I stumbled back so hard I cracked my head against the sink. When I came to, the mirror was back. No crack, no can, no blood. But my head still hurts like hell. That night I finally got a call, not a ring, just the phone blinking. No number. Just a text that read, "Remain compliant. Phase 2 begins tonight." I didn't sleep, just sat in the corner with the knife and stared at the door, daring it to open. But nothing happened. No agents. No sounds. Until the lights died at 3:12 a.m. all at once, like someone flipped a switch on a grid outside. Total darkness, except for a glow coming from the kitchen mirror. It pulsed, dull and red, like a heartbeat. The air filled with that same off-bleach tang, only now it burned, made my eyes water. The floorboards started creaking in rhythmic patterns like footsteps circling under me. I ran to the front door, pounded it, kicked it, tried stabbing the panel. Nothing. No knob, no hinges, just a slab of locked metal. That was 3 nights ago. Since then, no food has been delivered. The fridge is empty, the water runs but smells like sulfur. And the mirrors, God, the mirrors. They've started showing other things. Not reflections, but places I've never seen. A basement lit by a swinging light bulb. A hallway flooded ankle-deep in brown water. A room filled with dozens of TVs, all showing different people sleeping. And sometimes, they show me, but not from my point of view. From above, like the camera feed of a lab subject. This morning I tried cutting into the wall beneath the hallway mirror with the knife. I got maybe a foot deep before hitting something solid, not structural, like metal, with vents, as if the house was wrapped in its own containment cell. Like I'm not even in a normal location anymore, not underground, not above, just held, caged, studied. I think the whispering is real now. Not the lights, not the hum, actual voices. They talk at night, through the vents. Tiny syllables in a tongue I don't know. Sometimes I hear my name, but always wrong, twisted, like it's stitched together by someone who's only seen it written. I don't think this is federal anymore. If it ever was. Tonight the text came again. Phase 3 begins now. We appreciate your participation. I don't know what Phase 3 means, but something is behind the mirror again. Watching. Closer this time. I can see it when I lean into my reflection, like it's beneath the glass, tracing my every movement. If this message gets out, if someone reads this, do not cooperate. I don't think I'm in a safe house. I don't even think I sit some on US soil anymore. And whatever they're doing here, it's not about protection. It's about replacement. He didn't blink. That's the first thing I noticed about him. The man they assigned to guard me when I was moved into the safe house, a safe beige 2-bedroom with way too many deadbolts, just stood in the corner of the room with his arms crossed, eyes on me, not blinking, not once. His name was supposedly Agent Harris, but he didn't move like a federal agent. He was too still. He didn't talk much either. No small talk, no warmth, no emotion, just constantly watching me. His uniform looked right: black FBI windbreaker, standard issue Glock on his hip, a radio clipped onto his belt. But none of it felt right. I asked the 2 field agents who dropped me off, is he like Secret Service or something? They just gave me this weird smile and said, Harris is Tier 1 clearance. He handled harder cases than yours. Then they drove off and left me alone with him. Let me back up. I was put under protection after testifying against my ex-boyfriend, Seth. He wasn't just my ex. He was the senior tech developer at a firm contracting directly with the Department of Defense. I found some files on his hard drive I really shouldn't have seen. I mean, encrypted blueprints for military satellites, some black sites map labeled Echo Frame, words like NeuroWeb consensus and population cycling. Yeah, wild stuff for a guy who claimed he just worked in data. Anyway, after I turned the flash drive over to the FBI, things went sideways. First, my car tires got slashed. Then my mom's house got broken into. I came home one night and found my cat dead in the bathtub. No blood, just placed there, like a message. That's when 2 federal agents called me in. Said the threats were credible and I needed to be pulled out immediately. Total blackout. No phone, no contact. Temporary surveillance asset protection. Fancy talk for you're gonna live in a house with someone armed and pretend the world doesn't know where you are. So yeah, that's how I met Agent Harris. He never introduced himself. Never said a word unless I spoke first. He had no visible ID, no badge, no paperwork. I asked to see it the first night. He just stared at me and said, "That SEP's not relevant for your protection." I couldn't sleep with him in the house. The way he moved was so off. Too smooth, like his body was tightly controlled, every step planned. A few times I caught him just standing outside my bedroom at night, in the dark, not knocking, not making noise. When I asked what he was doing, he said, "You called out." I hadn't said. Then the little things started. The house phone, supposed to be a red line directly to the FBI, started ringing once a night, just one ring. At the same time, 3:17 a.m. Every night. Harris never answered it. I tried once. Nothing on the other end. Just a low, breathy static that made my ear feel warm. Once I found paperwork in the kitchen drawer. Briefing documents with my name on them. Except the photo wasn't right. Same face, but different eyes, different expressions. Cold. Unfamiliar. In the photo I was smiling in a way I never have. It was dated 3 months in the future. When I asked Harris about it, he said, "That version of you isn't set relevant anymore." What the hell does that even mean? I tried to leave the house on day 6. Didn't announce it. I just quietly grabbed my coat. Opened the front door slowly. Somehow he was already outside, standing on the lawn across the street. He hadn't walked out the front door. I know that. I had been watching the hallway. There was no way. He turned and looked at me, then raised his hand and calmly motioned for me to go back in. That night I turned my bed to face the bedroom door so I could keep an eye on the hallway. I barely slept, but I saw something that made my blood run cold. At some point I must have dozed off with one eye open. When I opened them both again, Harris was standing in the doorway. His eyes were open wide, too wide, and he was mouthing something without a sound. Like a prayer. or a chant. When he realized I was watching, he stepped back silently into the hallway and closed the door with robotic stillness. I finally snapped on day 9. I used the old phone to call the number they'd given me from the start. After 6 rings, someone finally picked up. FBI Field Office, Special Agent Morales. I explained everything in rapid, breathless panic. Listen, the man here with me, Agent Harris. I don't think he sits with you. There sits something wrong with him. There was a long pause. Then Morales asked slowly, "Did you say Agent Harris?" "Yeah." "You're mistaken," she said. "We haven't had a protective custody detail assigned to your case since day 3. Your handler filed an incident report that you were refusing protection, that you voluntarily disengaged." "No," I snapped. "He sits still here. He sits walking around, watching me." More silence. Then, "We don't have an Agent Harris. There sits no one by that name in your protection log." I dropped the phone and backed away. I turned and Harris was standing in the kitchen. "Just watch me." Again, like he knew the exact second I made that call. His head was slightly tilted. "Who are you speaking with?" he asked. That wasn't set protocol. His tone stayed monotone like usual, but something was different in his face. Like his features were struggling to stay aligned, as if his expression was being held together by something behind his skin trying to mimic normal. That night I didn't sleep. I shoved the dresser against my bedroom door, crawled into the closet with the knife from the kitchen, and watched the hallway light under the crack of the door. It never turned off. I must have fallen asleep at some point, because what woke me up next wasn't sound, it was a lack of it. Every noise in the house just stopped. The humming from the HVAC, the ticking wall clock, even the wind outside, it was all gone. Silent, thick, unnatural quiet. Then the sound came back all at once, like a switch had flipped. The wall clock ticked. The vents hissed, and my bedroom door handle began to turn. Slowly, despite the dresser, like he was testing me. I screamed. The next morning the dresser had been moved aside, like something just lifted it with no effort. My bedroom door was wide open, and Harris sat at the kitchen table eating cereal, like nothing happened. I told him I wanted out, that I no longer consented to this arrangement, that this wasn't legal, that the Bureau knew he wasn't real. His response chilled me more than anything else. "I am not here for your consent," he said. "I am here for stability." Then he smiled, or tried to. "This thing, whatever he is, doesn't blink. Don't sleep. Don't leave. He still walks the halls at night, murmuring things I can almost hear but can't understand." The FBI never came. Not after I broke the kitchen window and tried to scream into the woods beyond the yard. Not after I slashed my own palm to force a wellness check. Not even after I left the phone off the hook for 2 straight days. No one came. Today he stood over me while I ate the tasteless eggs he makes every morning. He said, "Now that you've fully adapted, the next operational cycle will begin." I asked him what that meant. He didn't answer. He just stared, unblinking. And for the first time, I swear I saw my own face flicker behind his eyes. They told me the safe house would keep me alive, that no one knew its location outside a handful of federal agents. Clean slate, they said. It sets isolated, secure, temporary. But it wasn't safe, not from whatever followed me. I was moved after what I saw in that diner, a place I'd been working at for 9 years. Simple night shift gig in upstate New York. The kind of place where the coffee's always burned and the regulars never tip. I was just trying to clock out early when a van pulled up outside, headlights cutting through the fog. 3 men got out. One wore a sheriff's uniform, but he wasn't from our town. The badge was wrong. The others looked military, but not right either. No name patches. Blank expressions. And they dragged someone out of the back. A teenage boy, gagged, bloody. They didn't see me, but I saw everything. They took him behind the building. 30 seconds later, gunshot. I never even screamed, I just backed into the supply closet and called 911, whispered what I saw, stayed hidden until I heard real sirens, real cops. But by then, the van was gone. So was the body. It didn't matter. By the next morning, I had an FBI agent in my living room telling me I wasn't safe. 2 days later, I was relocated. The safe house was a run-down one-story about 30 minutes from nowhere. No neighbors, no lights nearby. Just wind, pine trees, and silence. The house smelled like stale air and old wood. You could hear it creak at night. The kind of sound that makes you think someone's walking down the hallway even when you're alone. The agent reassigned me, Agent Kent, stayed for the first night. He gave me a satchel phone that only dialed the U.S. Marshals, told me not to answer the door unless I verified the code word and ran through lockdown protocols. He looked on edge, said there were elements connected to the incident that weren't accounted for. He didn't explain and I didn't ask. I just nodded and watched his SUV disappear down the dirt road the next morning. That was the last normal day. The first sign came at night. I just started falling asleep on the dusty couch when I heard knocking. Not banging, not someone pounding for help, just knocking. Calm, deliberate, tap, 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 right on the back door, the one that faced the woods. I crept over and looked through the slat in the blinds. No one. But the doorknob was turning, slowly. Then it stopped. I called Agent Kent, straight to voicemail. I didn't sleep again until morning. The next night it happened again, this time at 2:13 a.m. After the knocking stopped, there were footsteps, not heavy ones. Soft, almost like a child walking barefoot. I think that's what made it worse. It didn't sound violent. It sounded gentle, inhumanly gentle. And I could feel it, like something was standing just on the other side of the door listening. I never opened it, but every morning I'd find the porch covered in muddy footprints, bare ones, leading in a perfect circle around the house. Agent Kent never came back. The number stopped working. I tried calling the marshals on the emergency line. All I heard was static. Then something else. Breathing. Slow, too slow, like whatever was on the other end didn't have lungs. I hung up and unplugged the phone. By day 6, the knocks came from multiple doors. No patterns. Random timing. Sometimes I'd fall asleep and wake up to quiet. Then a knock would come from the window behind me. Once, just once, I heard it speak. It didn't sound like a voice. It sounded like someone trying not to sound human, like they were mimicking speech, syllables stretched too long, echoing behind the glass. It said my name. Not shouted, whispered, like it was trying to see if I'd answer. I pressed my hands over my ears and waited for sunrise. By then I had duct taped the doors, blocked every window with furniture. I left the lights on constantly, even though the bulbs flickered and faded every night around the same time, 2 a.m. to 3:33 a.m., like something was draining the house. The air grew heavy too, not like humidity, more like pressure, like the walls were getting closer. And the worst part? I started remembering things that hadn't happened. Flash memories of standing in the woods at night, of tearing open the boy's mouth so he'd stop screaming, of burying something in the floorboards of the safe house even though I hadn't touched them. I thought I was breaking down, until I found the crawl space. There were 6 floorboards in the bedroom that didn't line up perfectly. I don't know what made me pry them up. Maybe I was hoping to find some kind of logical explanation. Rats, mold, wires. What I found was a small, torn photo, burned around the edges. It showed the diner from the night of the crime. Only, I was in the picture. Outside, standing near the van, smiling. I couldn't breathe. That night I didn't hear knocking. Instead, the back door swung open on its own around 2 a.m. Wind didn't do it. It was locked. Duct taped. I just watched it creak open from the hallway, frozen with fear. I was holding a knife, hands shaking so hard I nearly dropped it. Then I saw something inside the doorway. Tall, pale, completely motionless. Like it was waiting. I didn't set move. It didn't set move. It stayed there until the sun came up. When I finally blinked, it was gone, but the door was still open. The grass wasn't trampled. No footsteps this time. Just silence. A loud silence that felt like it was pressing against my skull. That morning I packed a bag. I didn't care about clearance or permissions or contacting the bureau. I just walked down the dirt road until I saw a truck, flagged it down, lied about being lost. The guy dropped me off at a gas station 3 towns over. I called a cousin I hadn't spoken to in years, told her a version of the truth and begged her to pick me up. I've been staying in her basement for a week now. No phone, no address under my name. But last night I woke up at 2:13 a.m. and found her standing in the corner of the basement. Just standing there. She didn't seem to hear me at first. Her head tilted like she was confused. Then, without blinking, she said, "Something followed you." She went back to bed after that like nothing happened. This afternoon she doesn't remember. Says she never went downstairs. Once did stop rubbing her arms though. Keeps saying it feels like the air is too tight. I haven't told her anything. I don't think it matters anymore. Whatever I saw behind that diner, they said I was the witness to a crime. But maybe I wasn't just watching. Maybe I was part of it. Maybe that's why it followed me. Maybe that's why it's still here. The safe house wasn't the first red flag, it was the silence on the ride there. No one talked. Not the agents. Not my husband. Not even my 2 kids. We were all on edge, sure. But this silence felt thick, like the kind that hums inside your skull. You feel it more than hear it. It should have felt like relief. After everything that had happened, the break-in, the threats, that unmarked SUV parked on our street every night for a week, we were finally safe. But from the moment we pulled into the gravel driveway of that old farmhouse, I felt something off. I wish I'd trusted that feeling. The house sat on a hill, far from any neighbors, surrounded by tall grass and trees dense enough to block cell signals. Classic invisible location protocol, the agent said. It looked abandoned. The porch sagged, the windows were covered with security film from the inside, and the air smelled like something had died in the walls a long time ago. My daughter whispered to me, "It smells like something bad happened here." They told us a protective detail would be living on site in a trailer out back to reduce contact. We weren't to leave the house under any circumstances unless the marshals initiated relocation. We followed the rules, but it didn't matter. That first night we settled in as best we could. The power worked, but the lights flickered constantly and the heat was unreliable. My husband tried to act strong in front of the kids, but I could see it in his face. He was scared. Everything felt wrong. I barely slept. Around 3 a.m. I woke up to footsteps. Not outside. Inside. Slow and deliberate. Someone walking across the floorboards in the hallway. I grabbed my phone, but of course no service. There was a sat phone the agents left us, but no one picked up when I called. The next morning I asked the kids if they'd heard anything. My son rolled his eyes. My daughter stared at the floor for so long I thought she didn't hear me. Then she said, "I think someone sits in the walls." I laughed it off at the time. Just nerves. Anxiety. Kids get weird when their whole life is upended, right? That was day 2. The last day I saw my family together. By day 3, everything started to unravel. It started with the doors. In the middle of the night, I found the back door wide open. Nothing was out of place, no sign of forced entry, but the air inside the house felt swampy, like it had sucked in all the cold from the woods outside. I locked it again, checked every room. Everyone was asleep. I thought maybe my husband forgot to latch it. But then the next night my daughter's window cracked open, just a sliver, and she was gone. Gone. Her bed was still warm when I touched it. Her favorite stuffed rabbit was on the floor, twisted like it had been yanked from her arms. She wasn't the kind of kid to wander. Ever. I screamed for help, ran down the hallway, pounded on the walls. My voice bounced off the rotting wood and stale air, but no one answered. No reply from the agents out back. No headlights. No footsteps. Not anything. I shook my husband awake, panicking. Only it wasn't him. There was a man in our bed, but when he rolled over to face me, it wasn't my husband's face. It looked similar. Same beard, same hair, but the eyes weren't right, too wide, too dark, too still. Like they had been worn by something else. He smiled and said, "She sips not missing. She sips becoming something useful." I ran. I don't know how I made it down the stairs. Somewhere along the way I cut my foot on a piece of shattered glass. I don't even remember doing it, but the blood soaked through the sock fast. I made it into the kitchen, tried the front door. Locked. Chained from the outside. I grabbed the sat phone, my hands shaking so violently I could barely punch in the emergency code. Static. And then a voice. My daughter Sip's voice. But wrong. Warbly. Like it was underwater. "Mama," it said. "We sit her on the floor." I dropped the phone. Backed away. My vision was spinning, stomach twisting like something inside me knew this wasn't something human. This wasn't a break-in. It was something worse. Something we'd let in. I ran to my son's room next. His bed was empty. The window is open. No signs of struggle. No note. Just one of his sneakers sitting underneath the bottom bunk like he'd vanished mid-step. The not my husband came back downstairs around dawn. He stood in the doorway drinking coffee like nothing happened. Smiled with that same too wide mouth and asked me if I wanted breakfast. I locked myself in the upstairs bathroom for hours. Tried everything, called the marshals again, emailed my contact agent, even broke into the emergency radio unit in the hallway closet. All dead signals. No response. That night I set up a chair in front of the bathroom door and stayed inside. I couldn't sleep, just sat there holding a kitchen knife, staring at the gap beneath the door. Still boards, creaky floor, that smell like dirt and something wet growing underground. Then just before dawn I watched shadows move under the door. And I swear to God one of them whispered my name 4 times in a row. Each time slower than the last. When I finally came out, the man who wasn't my husband was gone. So was every photo in the house. Every picture of my kids. Every item that proved they were ever here. Their clothes were gone. Their toothbrushes. The crayon marks my daughter left on the kitchen wall were painted over. Like they'd been erased. It's day 6, I think. I've stopped flipping the pages on the calendar. The agents never came back. I walked out to the trailer. It was empty. Doors wide open, no uniforms, no weapons, just beds made perfectly, like no one ever used them. I don't think they existed at all. Or if they did, they weren't set agents. I've started hearing them under the floorboards now, scratching, sometimes tapping in threes, sometimes laughter. Sometimes my own voice mimicked back at me in a low, warped whisper. I tried to leave. We walked down that long gravel path to where the SUV had dropped us off. After 20 minutes of walking in one direction, I ended up right back in front of the porch. This house doesn't let you leave. I think it's feeding off me now. Leaving little echoes behind, a soft giggle in the guest room, the scent of my husband's aftershave in the hallway. Last night I wrote their names in chalk. David, Ethan, Lily. I woke up today and the board was clean. I don't know if anyone's looking for us. All our records were wiped when we entered protection. No phones, no IDs. It's like we volunteered to be forgotten. All I know is this: I should have never trusted them. The crime I witnessed, I don't think it was human to begin with. And the safe house they put me in, it's not a house. It sets a mouth, and I think I'm still hungry.